Just a few miles south of Venice, Italy, lies an island so shrouded in fear, history and death that locals dare not speak its name. Boats refuse to dock, tourists are turned away, and what remains behind its crumbling walls and overgrown ruins is a silence louder than screams. This is Poveglia Island, Italy's forbidden land of no return. I've investigated some of the most haunted places on Earth, places where darkness clings to the very air you breathe, but Poveglia is different. This isn't just a location with a dark past. It's a scar on the face of the earth, a place where the sheer volume of human suffering has saturated the soil, the stone, and the soul of the island itself. We're going on a journey to a place where history's darkest chapters were written in blood and ash. For centuries, this island served as a dumping ground for the sick, the dying, and the insane. It's a place where over 160,000 souls are said to have perished, their final moments filled with unimaginable agony. The energy here is raw, it's aggressive, and it's trapped. The stories that come from this place are not just ghost stories, they are warnings. They speak of a malevolence that has festered for centuries, an anger that has never faded. Tonight, we peel back the layers of this forbidden island. We will confront the legends, the history, and the terrifying reality of what lurks in the shadows of Poveglia. We're here to understand why this island is considered one of the most haunted, most evil places in the world. We're seeking answers in a place where most people only find fear. We want to give a voice to the countless souls who were silenced here, to hear their stories and to document the undeniable paranormal evidence that proves they never left. As our boat cuts through the murky green waters of the Venetian lagoon, Poveglia emerges from the mist like a forgotten nightmare. From a distance, you see the skeletal remains of buildings, a lonely bell tower piercing the sky, and an unnerving stillness. The vibrant life of Venice feels a million miles away. Here, there is only decay. The air grows heavy, thick with a sense of foreboding that you can feel in your bones. Even the birds seem to avoid flying over this patch of land. It's an immediate, visceral reaction, your body telling you that you are approaching a place where you do not belong. The island is deceptively small, but every inch of it is packed with a history of torment. The shoreline isn't sand. It's a mixture of dirt, debris, and, as legend claims, the charred, pulverized bones of plague victims. The main structures, the crumbling church, the dilapidated hospital, the ominous asylum, stand as monuments to misery. Nature is trying to reclaim this place, with vines strangling the walls and roots breaking through the floors, but it can't erase the stains of the past. It's like the island itself is trying to bury its own horrific memories, but the scars are too deep to ever truly heal. Even before stepping foot on the island, you can feel the oppressive energy radiating from it. It's a palpable weight, a static charge in the air that makes the hair on your arms stand up. The local fishermen, they have stories. They talk of seeing strange lights, hearing disembodied screams carried on the wind, and feeling an unseen force pushing their boats away from the shore. They know better than to get close. They respect the darkness that has claimed Poveglia as its own. This isn't just an abandoned island. It's a place that actively repels the living, a place that wants to be left alone with its ghosts. It wasn't always a place of horror. In the year 421, Poveglia was a sanctuary, a refuge for Romans fleeing the barbarian invasions that were sweeping across the mainland. For centuries, it was a peaceful, self-sufficient community. Families lived here, fishermen worked the waters, and life was simple. You can almost feel the faint echo of that peaceful time, a whisper of what this island once was before the darkness descended. But that peace was fragile. A fleeting moment before the island's destiny took a horrific turn, forever altering its fate and sealing it as a place of unimaginable suffering. The turning point came in the 14th century when the Black Death, the bubonic plague, ravaged Europe. Venice, a bustling hub of trade, was hit hard. Panic and desperation gripped the city. They needed a place to isolate the sick and the dying, a place far from the healthy population where the plague could be contained. Their eyes fell on Poveglia. The island's residents were forced to leave, and its new, grim purpose was established. It became a lazaretto, a quarantine station, but it was more of a death sentence than a place of healing. This was the beginning of the end for Poveglia's tranquility. Ships filled with the afflicted were sent here, men, women, children. If you showed even the slightest symptom, you were torn from your family and exiled to this island to die. There was no cure, no comfort, only isolation and the certainty of a painful end. The island that was once a symbol of safety became a symbol of exile and despair. This transformation marked the first layer of tragedy to be absorbed by the island's soil, the first wave of tormented souls to be trapped within its shores. The island's quiet history was erased, rewritten with the ink of sickness and death. As the plague raged on for centuries, with wave after devastating wave, Poveglia's role became even more gruesome. It was no longer just a place for the sick to die. It became a massive open-air crematorium. The sheer number of bodies overwhelmed any attempt at proper burial. The solution was brutal and horrific. The dead, and often the still living who were too weak to protest, were thrown into enormous pits and set ablaze. The smoke from these human bonfires could be seen for miles, a constant sickening reminder of the death toll. The air was thick with the smell of burning flesh, a stench that locals claimed would never wash away. Imagine the terror, being dragged to this island knowing there is no escape. You're surrounded by the dead and dying, the sounds of wailing and the sight of bodies being consumed by fire. The ground beneath your feet became a mixture of soil, ash and human bone. Historians and locals claim that to this day the soil on Poveglia is composed of over 50% human remains. Fishermen have pulled up human bones in their nets for centuries. When you walk on Poveglia, you are literally walking on a mass grave, a foundation built from the agony of over 160,000 souls who perished here in the most horrific way imaginable. This act of burning the victims, of denying them a proper burial, is a massive catalyst for paranormal activity. It's an act of desecration on an industrial scale. These souls were not laid to rest, they were destroyed, their identities erased by fire. This creates an incredible amount of residual energy, an imprint of pain and anger that cannot dissipate. The legends say the ground itself is cursed, saturated with the rage and sorrow of those who were treated as nothing more than refuse. This is why the island feels so heavy, so aggressive. It's the collective scream of thousands who were denied peace even in death. With a history this saturated in death and despair, it's really no surprise that Poveglia is considered one of the most active paranormal hotspots on the planet. The spirits of the plague victims are the island's oldest and most prominent residents. Visitors, trespassers, and paranormal investigators who have dared to step onto its shores report a consistent and, honestly, terrifying range of experiences. The most common is the overwhelming feeling of being watched by countless unseen eyes. It's a suffocating sensation, as if the very air is judging you, pressing in on you from all sides. You are without a doubt an intruder in their place of eternal suffering. Disembodied voices are frequently heard whispering in Italian, cries for help, moans of agony, and sometimes angry, guttural shouts telling people to leave. These aren't just faint sounds on the wind, they are clear, intelligent responses captured on digital recorders known as EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena. People have reported being touched, pushed and scratched by unseen forces. The feeling of sudden intense sadness is another hallmark of Poveglia, a wave of hopelessness that just washes over you, believed to be the residual emotion of the thousands who died here, knowing they were abandoned and forgotten by the world. The energy of the plague pits is particularly potent. Investigators have documented extreme temperature drops in these areas, equipment malfunctioning without explanation, and full-bodied apparitions seen darting between the trees and crumbling walls. These are the spirits of those who were burned, forever trapped in a loop of their final, agonizing moments. They are confused, they are in pain, and they are angry. They don't distinguish between the people who condemned them and the curious who visit today. To them, all living are outsiders, a painful reminder of the life they lost. Their suffering never ended. It just became a permanent part of the island's atmosphere. Just when you think the history of Poveglia couldn't get any darker, it does. In 1922, the island's purpose shifted once again, adding a new, twisted layer of psychological horror to its legacy. The existing buildings were converted into a psychiatric hospital, an asylum for the mentally ill, but this was no place of healing. In an era when mental illness was deeply misunderstood and stigmatized, the Poveglia Asylum became a place to dump society's unwanted, to hide them away from public view. The island's isolation, once used to contain disease, was now used to contain madness. The patients sent here were subjected to horrific conditions. The asylum was poorly funded, understaffed, and operated with a philosophy of imprisonment rather than treatment. Patients were left to wander the decaying halls, their cries for help echoing off the same walls that had once absorbed the moans of the dying plague victims. The already present dark energy of the island is believed to have preyed on the vulnerable minds of the patients, exacerbating their conditions and driving them deeper into despair and insanity. They were trapped on an island of ghosts, their own inner demons amplified by the literal demons surrounding them. The treatments were barbaric, even for the time. Lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and other cruel experimental procedures were performed with crude instruments and little regard for human life. The patients were not seen as people in need of care, but as subjects for grotesque experiments. This new chapter of suffering added a different kind of energy to the island, not just the agony of physical death, but the deep, tormenting pain of psychological torture. The ghosts of the asylum are said to be different from the plague spirits. They are more confused, more erratic, and filled with a profound sense of betrayal and terror. At the heart of the asylum's reign of terror is the legend of one man, a figure of pure evil, who has become Poveglia's most infamous ghost. The story goes that the asylum was run by a sadistic doctor who was obsessed with finding a cure for insanity. He believed the source of mental illness was physical, located within the brain, and he used his patients as human guinea pigs for his depraved experiments. He was particularly fond of the lobotomy, performing the procedure with crude tools like a hammer and chisel, often without anesthesia, in the island's bell tower. The bell tower was his private laboratory of horrors. He would drag his victims up the winding stairs, their screams muffled by the thick stone walls. The other patients and staff could only listen in terror, knowing what was happening, but powerless to stop it. The doctor was driven by a monstrous ambition, completely devoid of empathy. He tortured and butchered his patients in the name of science, his madness far exceeding that of anyone he was meant to be treating. The bell tower became a place of unimaginable pain, its energy forever stained by his atrocities. But his reign of terror came to a dramatic end. As the legend tells it, the doctor began to be tormented by the spirits of the island, the ghosts of the plague victims and his own butchered patients. They haunted him relentlessly, driving him to the brink of his own sanity. One day, consumed by guilt and terror, he climbed to the top of the bell tower and threw himself off. A nurse who witnessed the fall claimed that as he lay dying on the ground, a strange mist or shadow rose from the earth and enveloped his body, strangling the last breath from him. The island itself was claiming its revenge. Now his tormented spirit is said to haunt the bell tower, forever trapped in the place of his crimes. And locals swear that on quiet nights the bell, which was removed decades ago, can still be heard tolling across the lagoon. After the asylum finally closed its doors in 1968, Poveglia was abandoned for good. The Italian government, perhaps acknowledging the island's dark legacy or maybe just wanting to avoid liability, strictly prohibited public access. The island became a forbidden zone, a place left to rot, guarded by the waters of the lagoon and, honestly, the fears of the local population. For decades it has been left to the elements and its ghosts, a silent, decaying monument to centuries of human suffering. The no trespassing signs are a stark warning, but really, the real deterrent is the island's terrifying reputation. Today, Poveglia is a ruin. The hospital buildings are collapsing, their roofs caved in, their floors littered with the debris of a forgotten time, rusted bed frames, shattered glass, and the decaying remnants of its last occupants. Nature is waging a slow war against the structures, with thick ivy and twisted trees reclaiming the man-made horrors. But you know, the overgrowth can't hide the oppressive atmosphere. The silence here is profound, unnatural. It's not the peaceful quiet of an uninhabited place. It's a heavy, watchful silence, as if the entire island is holding its breath, just waiting. The Italian government has made several attempts to sell the island, hoping to redevelop it into a luxury resort or some other commercial venture. In 2014, it was put up for auction, but the deal ultimately fell through. It seems no one wants to take on the financial risk, or perhaps the spiritual risk, of disturbing this place. The locals believe the island is cursed and that any attempt to build on it is doomed to fail. For now, Poveglia remains in a state of limbo, owned by the state but ruled by its past. A forbidden, forgotten island just a stone's throw from one of the world's most beautiful cities. The island's forbidden status and terrifying reputation have made it a magnet for thrill-seekers and urban explorers. In 2016, one such incident brought Poveglia crashing into the international spotlight. A group of 5 young American tourists from Colorado, looking for an adventure, decided to illegally visit the island at night. They paid a local boatman a hefty sum to drop them off, promising to call him for pickup in the morning. They were looking for a ghost story to tell their friends back home, but honestly, they got far more than they bargained for. Almost immediately after their boat disappeared into the darkness, their night of fun turned into a night of sheer terror. They began hearing disembodied voices, footsteps following them through the decrepit asylum, and the distinct, horrifying sound of a young girl crying. The atmosphere, they later reported, was suffocatingly evil. One of the group members suddenly became possessed, speaking in a voice that wasn't their own and exhibiting violent, uncontrollable behavior. The fun was over. This was real and they were trapped. Panicked and screaming for help, they desperately tried to signal for rescue. Their cries were eventually heard by a passing boat, and the Italian fire brigade and coast guard were dispatched to the island. They found the group huddled together on the shore, hysterical and begging to be taken away. They told authorities they had been chased by malevolent spirits and that they would rather go to jail than spend another second on that cursed ground. The story went viral, serving as a chilling modern-day testament to the horrors of Poveglia and a stark warning to anyone else who might consider breaking the rules to visit. My own experience on Poveglia Island was one of the most intense and aggressive investigations of my entire career. When my team and I gained access, we knew we were stepping into a place with a reputation for extreme paranormal activity, but nothing can truly prepare you for the reality of it. The moment we stepped off the boat, the energy hit us like a physical blow. We were immediately confronted with a darkness that was palpable, an intelligence that was ancient and malevolent. This wasn't just residual energy, this was an active, hostile haunting. During our lockdown in the asylum, we were subjected to a relentless barrage of paranormal phenomena. We captured some of the clearest and most terrifying EVPs we have ever recorded. Voices screaming, "Leave!" A doctor detailing his experiments, and the chilling cries of a child. We experienced physical contact. I was forcefully pushed, and another crew member was scratched. The most disturbing moment came when I was overcome by a dark, raging energy. I felt an uncontrollable anger welling up inside me, a feeling of wanting to hurt my own team. It was a terrifying moment of possession, a direct attack from one of the island's dominant entities. We used our spirit box, a device that scans radio frequencies to allow spirits to communicate, and the responses were direct and threatening. Voices came through telling us to die, identifying themselves as plague victims and even the spirit of the evil doctor. We captured a thermal image of a full-bodied apparition in one of the asylum's hallways, a figure that moved with purpose before vanishing. Our investigation left us with no doubt. Poveglia is not just haunted, it is a portal, an epicenter of dark energy, where countless tormented souls are trapped, and they do not want the living among them. The question that hangs over Poveglia isn't just whether it's haunted, but whether it's truly cursed. A haunting is often tied to a specific event or spirit, but a curse implies a much deeper, more pervasive form of darkness, an affliction on the land itself. Given the island's history, the theory of a curse is not hard to believe. The sheer scale of death, the desecration of bodies, the psychological torture, and the acts of pure evil committed here could have created a perfect storm of negative energy, permanently tainting the very soil and stone of the island. Many locals and paranormal experts believe the curse began with the plague pits. The act of burning over 160,000 bodies without proper rites is a profound violation in many belief systems. It's thought that this act trapped the souls in a state of perpetual anger and unrest, tethering them to the location of their desecration. This collective psychic scream could have fundamentally altered the island's spiritual fabric, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of darkness that attracts and amplifies further tragedy, like the horrors of the asylum. There are also theories that go beyond the plague. Some speculate about ancient rituals being performed on the island long before the Romans, or that the island sits on a geological anomaly, a weak spot between our world and another dimension, a so-called negative vortex. While these ideas are harder to prove, they speak to the profound sense of wrongness that everyone feels here, whether it's a curse born of human atrocity or something more ancient and elemental. The effect is the same. Poveglia is a place where darkness has taken root, and it actively resists any attempt by the living to reclaim it. Beyond the ghost stories and legends, Poveglia holds tangible, physical mysteries buried within its soil. While extensive archaeological work has been forbidden or limited, the small-scale excavations and accidental discoveries that have occurred over the years have only deepened the island's enigma. The most famous findings, of course, are the plague pits. Archaeologists have confirmed the existence of at least 2 massive pits, and analysis of the soil has revealed it to be thick with human ash and bone fragments, corroborating the horrific legends of mass cremations. But other, more puzzling discoveries have been made. During construction work in the 19th century, workers unearthed strange artifacts that didn't seem to fit the known history of the island. There were reports of stone tablets inscribed with unfamiliar symbols and unusually crafted pottery that predated the Roman settlement. These finds have led to speculation about the island's pre-Roman history. Was it a site for ancient rituals? A place of worship for some forgotten, perhaps dark deity? These artifacts were poorly documented and have since been lost to time, leaving us with only tantalizing questions. More recently, paranormal investigators and urban explorers have photographed strange markings and symbols carved into the walls of the asylum. Some resemble alchemical symbols, while others are crude, ritualistic drawings. Are these the desperate carvings of disturbed patients, or do they point to something more sinister? Perhaps secret rituals or occult practices were taking place within the asylum's walls, either by the staff or the patients themselves. Each new discovery, each unanswered question adds another layer to the mystery, suggesting that the history we know is only a fraction of the island's true dark story. After everything you've heard, the plague pits, the mad doctor, the possessions, the curse, the question might still linger. Should you visit Poveglia? Let me answer that with an unequivocal and emphatic no. This isn't a haunted house attraction or a spooky theme park. This is a real place with real dangers, both physical and spiritual. Firstly, it is illegal to visit the island. The Italian government has forbidden access for a reason. Getting caught trespassing can result in hefty fines, arrest, and deportation for foreign nationals. The waters are patrolled, and authorities do not take kindly to thrill seekers. The physical dangers are immense. The buildings are structurally unsound and in a state of advanced decay. Floors could collapse beneath your feet, ceilings could fall, and rusted metal and broken glass are everywhere. There are open pits and wells hidden by overgrown vegetation. A simple misstep could lead to a serious injury. And on an isolated island with no cell service, getting help would be nearly impossible. You would be stranded, injured, in one of the most terrifying places on Earth. It is simply not worth the risk to your life and safety, but the greatest danger is not physical, it is spiritual. I've been to countless haunted locations, and I can tell you that the energy on Poveglia is uniquely aggressive and parasitic. It clings to you. People who have visited illegally report experiencing paranormal activity long after they've left. Nightmares, unexplained illnesses, a string of bad luck, and the feeling of being followed by something they brought back with them. You risk a spiritual attachment, an entity latching onto your energy and following you home. Do not be foolish. Do not become another one of Poveglia's victims. Observe from a safe distance, respect the dead, and respect the darkness. A place as terrifying and infamous as Poveglia inevitably seeps into our collective consciousness, becoming a modern-day legend that fuels our nightmares and our creativity. The island's story is so inherently horrific that it has become a touchstone for horror writers, filmmakers, and creators around the world. It has been featured in numerous television shows, including my own investigation on Ghost Adventures, which brought its horrors to a massive international audience. Documentaries and travel shows focusing on dark tourism frequently cite Poveglia as the ultimate do-not-visit destination, solidifying its reputation as the world's most haunted island. The island's lore has inspired novels and short stories, with authors using its grim history as a backdrop for tales of psychological terror and supernatural horror. The legend of the Mad Doctor and his bell tower, in particular, is a story that has been retold and reimagined in various forms. It taps into our primal fears of medical malpractice and the loss of sanity. Poveglia has become a kind of shorthand for ultimate evil, a real-world location that is more terrifying than anything a writer could invent. In the digital age, Poveglia has thrived as an urban legend, spreading like wildfire through podcasts, YouTube videos like this one, and creepypasta forums. The viral story of the American tourists, the chilling EVPs captured by investigators, and the haunting drone footage of the decaying island all contribute to its growing mythos online. It has become a benchmark against which other haunted places are measured. Poveglia is no longer just an island in the Venetian lagoon, it is an idea, a symbol of a place so saturated with suffering that it has been permanently severed from the world of the living. Poveglia is more than just a collection of ghost stories. It is a monument to how we treat each other in times of crisis. It stands as a stark and honestly terrifying warning from the past. When fear and panic take hold, our humanity can be the first casualty. The thousands of souls abandoned here during the plague were victims not just of a disease, but of a society that chose to cast them out, to literally burn them away rather than offer them comfort in their final moments. Their suffering created a wound on the earth that has never healed. The asylum represents a different kind of failure, a failure of compassion and understanding. The mentally ill were not treated as patients but as prisoners, their minds and bodies subjected to unspeakable torture in the name of a twisted science. The island became a place where the vulnerable were preyed upon, their suffering hidden away from the world. The darkness of Poveglia was fed and nurtured by human cruelty, layer upon layer for centuries. The paranormal activity here is the direct result, the echo of that cruelty. This island is a lesson written in ash and stone. It teaches us that the consequences of our actions, especially those born of fear and inhumanity, are not easily erased. The energy remains. The pain lingers. The spirits of Poveglia are not just random ghosts, they are a chorus of the forgotten, the abused, and the discarded. They cry out from the past, reminding us of what happens when we turn our backs on our fellow human beings. Their eternal unrest is a warning to us all, a demand that we never forget the price of fear. Poveglia Island remains a scar on the beautiful face of the Venetian lagoon, a place where the weight of history is just too heavy to bear. It is a testament to the enduring power of human suffering, a place where the veil between our world and the next has been shredded beyond repair. The 160,000 souls of the plague, the tormented patients of the asylum, the evil doctor, and countless others are trapped here, bound to the soil they soaked with their tears and blood. Their stories are not meant to entertain, they are meant to haunt us, to serve as a chilling reminder of humanity's darkest capabilities. We came here seeking answers, and what we found was a darkness more profound than we could have imagined. We documented the evidence, we heard their voices, and we felt their anger. But we can't free them, no one can. The island is their tomb and their prison, a place of eternal unrest. Its future is uncertain, but its past is undeniable. It will likely remain as it is now, abandoned, forbidden, and left to the ghosts who have claimed it as their own sovereign territory, a kingdom of the dead. So the next time you see the beautiful, romantic images of Venice, remember the small, dark island that lurks just beyond the canals. Remember the stories of the fire, the madness, and the despair. Because the legacy of Poveglia is not just contained within its crumbling walls, it's a warning that echoes across the water. If you listen closely, even from Venice on a quiet night, some say you can hear the bell toll, and the whisper of those who still wander, crying for peace they never found.